Why do you think there's a lack of flexibility with the PM in changing their deal before sitting at the table with Labour?
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon.
So why do you think there was a lack of flexibility by the Prime Minister in changing her deal right up to the point that she sat at the table with Labour? Why was it having to wait until she sat at the table with Labour that anything was up for grabs?
I don't think that she has displayed a lack of flexibility. What the Prime Minister and the government collectively had to face was the fact that we had negotiated an agreement with the EU 27 that was very difficult to agree. It took a lot of time. It required compromises on both sides, and the Prime Minister believed and continues to believe that agreement successfully safeguards the key interests of the United Kingdom. And that we put it to Parliament. We put it to Parliament on a number of occasions, and that there was a majority against accepting that. Now, what was not open to us was simply to go back to the EU and say we want to rip this up. It had been made very clear in both private comments from the Commission and the 27 governments, and in their public statements, particularly that from President Juncker after the additional protocols to the withdrawal agreement had been concluded in the late-night meeting the PM had with President Juncker in Strasbourg, that they were not going to shift further. They had made, as they saw it, they had made a lot of compromises. It's ironic that Monsieur Barnier was severely criticised in Paris and other capitals for having, as those capitals believed, sold the EU short over the backstop. So that was not available.
Point, actually, regarding the backstop, when the committee was in Brussels, we interviewed Verhofstadt and Martin Selmayr. And I asked if the Prime Minister or anybody in the team had ever asked for the backstop to be removed, and their answer was no. What's your understanding of this?
Well, I can only speak for the period from when I've had my current office, and the committee would need to ask Secretary of State or officials who were in office between 2016 and beginning of 2018 to get a view as to what happened at those stages of negotiations.
Was it ever discussed at Cabinet, for example?
No, the Cabinet we had to... The PM has made it very clear to the Commission and to heads of government that if the backstop were dropped, there would probably be a majority. But it had been clear from, I think, a very early stage, and certainly this crystallised in December 2017, that this was, in their eyes, something that, while they didn't want it, was an essential insurance policy for them. And it was not just about the Irish border, important though that was, and particularly for the Government of Ireland, but this was also about trying to reconcile the requirement for an open border on the island of Ireland with protecting the integrity of the European single market. And on a number of occasions in the negotiations, the focus from Sabine Whale and others was very much upon how do you protect the integrity of the single market. It wasn't about Ulster, it was how do we make sure that stuff from elsewhere isn't coming in.
Back to my question, David, was you aware of the Prime Minister ever asking for the backstop?
I know that she has raised that in conversation. I know she has raised that in conversations with other leaders. They were in no doubt. They were in no doubt at all that without the backstop there would have been a majority. But it was very clear, certainly from December 2017 onwards, that that was not something that they were prepared to contemplate.
Okay, thank you. Would you agree that the government could have listened more to Conservative MPs when the withdrawal agreement was first rejected?
I think we were listening very much to the views of Conservative MPs and to being frank, to MPs across the House, because we're in a House of Commons with no overall majority for any one party, and debating difficult choices on an issue which, throughout my time in Parliament and before, has divided both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. So I think knowing what the reports that we were getting back, in particular from the Chief Whip, but also from others, I think we were very alive to where different currents of opinion were.
Thank you. And just final question, if that's okay, Chair. So what offers were made to Labour during the cross-party talks?
Well, again, I must preface this by saying the discussions with Labour were on a without prejudice basis. So it was on the lines of, if we put these words forward, would that be sufficient for you to not just to vote in favour of the implementation bill on a second reading, but to ensure a safe majority to see it carried through all its stages? Okay. That was the nature of the conversation. But on that, we tested various formulations on all the difficult issues, on customs, on workers' rights, and on second referendum. I think on second referendum we were prepared to commit ourselves to protecting time for a debate, because we just thought this was inevitable anyway, that there would be a debate and a vote on the second referendum. And the Labour Party wanted us, I think it's fair to say, wanted us to go further than that. We couldn't move on that, and we were not able to get to an agreement on customs either. Did you ever offer support for the withdrawal agreement in exchange for a general election at a certain date? No. No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.